Sounds like Drew doesn't have any idea what would
No.
actually bring you two closer from your end.
The men had no trouble with their women in them days, except in the backseat drivers.
John, slow down. Turn left. Watch that car. Slow down. Yak, yak, yak. Blam, blam, blam. Yak, yak, yak.
Up to $1,000.
Mr. Owl.
Bang, zoom!
Whoa. Whoa.
Oh, thank you, sir. You saved my life.
The moment you enter into any kind of human undertaking and relationship, what an act of faith.
Now's the time to live a little at Dairy Queen.
Hey, Furby.
Well, I want to understand you. I want to know what is going on
There's
with
nothing
you
to
in
talk
my house.
about. I don't want to talk about anything.
See, you've given yourself up. But this is the most powerful thing that can be done.
Said that you want me to help you do the dishes.
I want you to want to do the dishes.
Why would I want to do dishes? Why?
See, that's my whole point.
Some newly infatuated individuals showed decreased activity in the brain's cognitive center, the prefrontal cortex. As activation of this region allows us to engage in critical thought and pass judgment, it's not surprising we tend to see new relationships through rose-colored glasses.
You complete me. I vow to love, honor, cherish, and adore you.
This is the most powerful thing that can be done. Surrender. See, and love is an act of surrender to another person.
This video was adapted from author David Data's book, Intimate Communion. The book covers masculinity and femininity and the ways we can embody them. For those who may be interested in reading it, content warning, it is sexually explicit. According to Data, intimate relationships can go through 3 stages of evolution, progressing from a strict, highly limited form of relating to a more free, true-to-reality form. These stages also have implications for how we interact with others more broadly. Let's begin with the first stage, the dependent stage. The dependent stage, also called the traditional stage, insists that men be men and women be women. Here, we are all expected to stay on our respective sides of the gender spectrum. Anyone getting too close to the other side, or, God forbid, crossing into it, is suspect. Generally speaking, the more masculine a man is, the better, and the more feminine a woman is, the better. Ideals of masculinity and femininity abound, and we try in some way or another to imitate those ideals. The dependent stage is where we all begin, settling into our side of the spectrum and building on it, all the more so if our culture encourages such aims. The stage is called dependent because we all need both masculinity and femininity to have a full life. If we are meant to fall squarely into one side or the other, that therefore makes us dependent on someone else to take care of the other side. The simplest example of this would be a woman relying on her husband to make money and protect her, while the man relies on her to cook, clean, and manage their social connections, as neither are able to cross over into the other gendered domains. It's in the dependent stage that ideas of finding your other half or being completed by someone else are bolstered. While this style of relating can give people good lives, and has managed to keep society going for thousands of years, it is not without its problems. What if one doesn't have someone of the opposite gender to depend on, for instance? Is the more masculine the better, the more feminine the better really true? What about those whose nature is contradictory to those ideals? Lastly, the insistence that men be men and women be women ignores the fact that we all contain both masculine and feminine traits. If it were otherwise, we couldn't even function. Men could not ask questions, and women could not answer them. Men could not introspect, and women could not extrospect. Women could never initiate, and men could never respond. The idea of a purely masculine man or purely feminine woman, then, is absurd. Pretending otherwise motivates all kinds of dysfunctional behavior. Perhaps it's just my bias, but I believe such issues are more easily seen in men, so I'll focus on those. A contradiction arises when men see femininity both as something to be avoided and something they need to complete them. The phrase, women can't live with them, can't live without them, reflects this. The fact that many men vow to love their wives until the day they die, while simultaneously making half-jokes about how much they hate that same wife, also shows this. Given the fact that men do contain femininity but are not supposed to, or are at least not meant to express it, they must then compensate for this seeming defect by deprecating femininity or appearing more masculine than they are. Of course, equivalents do exist for women, but to my knowledge, women have historically been better at playing both sides. Men believe they are men, while women pretend to be women. It's issues like these that the next stage seeks to remedy, which is the 50-50 stage. Also called the egalitarian stage, the 50-50 stage focuses less on what makes us different and more on what makes us alike. The fact that we all have masculine and feminine traits is acknowledged, and we're encouraged to explore our previously neglected side. Rather than seeing a couple as two halves coming together to create a whole, the egalitarian stage sees two whole people coming together and splitting all the work 50-50, regardless of its gendered characteristics. The stage prepares the way for a deeper level of intimacy, as men and women can develop a deeper understanding, not only of themselves, but of their partner, by exploring their side of things. There's no longer a reflexive need to distance yourself from the other gender. There's also no need to compensate for those parts of yourself that shouldn't be there. This is a step forward in the fact that it makes for well-rounded, more secure individuals who know themselves more fully. It also allows for more freedom, both for the ordinary man and woman, and for those whose gender doesn't naturally approximate the gender ideals of the previous stage. Unfortunately, this stage has, thus far, done more to encourage women than men. This is likely due to the fact that we live in an anti-feminine culture, but I digress. Things like communication, collaboration, and couples therapy are often encouraged at this stage. Couples learn to talk, compromise, and like each other as friends, not just as resources or sexual partners. Though this stage is in many ways an improvement on the dependent stage, it is not without its own problems. Because the 50-50 stage is a reaction against the dependent stage, rather than glamorizing the masculine man and the feminine woman, the stage may exalt the androgyne, that person who is 50% man and 50% woman, or in some cases the gender non-conforming individual. The middle space of the spectrum that people were once cautioned against getting too close to is now the space we are expected to occupy. Getting too close to old-school stereotypes or prescriptions is now seen as suspect. While this middle space is excellent for those goals of communication and collaboration, the majority of us, roughly 90%, do not have a neutral sexual essence, and would therefore function better working from our side of the spectrum most of the time. The 50-50 stage then, just like the dependent stage, often encourages people to fill positions other than the ones they are naturally gifted for. Such neutral means of relating can also end up neutralizing sexual polarity, which is the enlivening, rejuvenating effect that masculinity and femininity have when paired together. That neutralization is responsible for many failed or otherwise unhappy relationships. The 50-50 stage also overemphasizes independence. It may be more common today to hear women say, "Who needs men?" than to hear husbands hating on their wives. While this newfound independence is a plus, its emphasis can make it hard to engage in self-sacrificial acts or to give your all in a relationship. Addressing these issues, the third stage synthesizes the previous two, bringing together the sexual polarity of the first and the flexibility of the second. The third stage, offering the deepest levels of intimacy, is called intimate communion. In this stage, rather than being masculine, being feminine, or being neutral because you're supposed to, we embrace our natural range when it comes to gender functions. We lean into the point of the spectrum we inhabit most effectively, while also accessing other points when needed. Full expression of this range removes both the sense of scarcity and entitlement we have when interacting with the opposite gender, and the sense of losing something when compromising with our partners. Rather than seeing the other as something you need to receive love, or as something that could threaten your self-love, you see yourself as love, expressing itself in its gendered or neutral forms through your relationships. Now we are whole human beings, free to give ourselves without fear. Relationships are no longer obligations or work, but are just one way of allowing reality's love to pour through you for others' sake. It's only by practicing intimate communion that the deepest levels of intimacy can be reached. There is more to life than intimacy, however. If this isn't a goal of yours, the first 2 stages of intimacy can provide good lives for many people. If you'd like to know more about the 3 stages, and don't mind sexual themes or language, I would recommend the book. It goes into detail on the nature of both genders and how to maintain sexual polarity. In addition to any personal application, I believe this model of gender relations gives a useful perspective to have when looking at our current society. I don't believe that we have lost our way by straying from traditional means, but are rather taking one, sometimes messy, step towards a fuller expression of truth. If I can organize my thoughts, I'd like to put out another video on this topic, giving my personal theories on gender's development as it may relate to the Christian Bible. Until the next video, however, thanks for watching. Leave your thoughts or questions in the comments.